Welcome back, coaches. This is the Football Coaching Podcast. I am Daniel Chamberlain, co-host, here with Joe Daniel, as always.
My son is trying to kick a hole in the floor above me, so I don't know if the mic picks that up. What's up, Coach?
Well, I didn't hear him, so that's
okay. Good
part, I guess.
That's why you buy a good mic.
Yeah, dude, get a good mic and all your problems go away. I agree.
Yeah.
We are joined tonight by Coach. You're gonna have to tell me your name. I completely.
My name's. You're all good.
I always leave it on the screen, and I just closed a window, and I was like, "Oh man!" And it's not Jackson Wiggins. I remembered it. Man, I was like, "It's not Jack. It is Jackson." I have a nephew named Jackson, so I screwed that part up. Welcome to the show, brother. This is the true podcasting where things go wrong right in the middle of the start.
Keeping that in.
It sounds like a typical Friday night in the football business.
Yeah. We don't edit, so
it'll all be on there. It's going to be great. Well, Coach Wiggins, welcome to the show. Why don't you give us your elevator spiel, introduce yourself, kind of how you got started in coaching and where you're at now.
Well, my name is Jackson Wiggins. I got into coaching my senior year when I was still at Coastal Carolina. I kind of wanted to get my feet wet with coaching football. So I started at a small school in the Conway area called Conway Christian, where I was basically an intern, just do whatever the coach asked me to do, and just was trying to be a sponge and learn all I could learn. And then I finished there, graduated from Coastal Carolina, came home, was originally going to help out the JV program, which in our level is actually our middle school program, but the head coach actually stepped down. Then the offensive coordinator got promoted to the head coach. And he came into the store where I work at, and he asked me, like, hey, do you want to come help me be special teams coordinator, be offensive line coach? I said, awesome, sounds good, man. Love to do that. Then, not even after our first scrimmage, it was like, hey, actually, you're going to be defensive coordinator now. So I had a year of defensive coordinator under my belt. Didn't know what the heck to do. So I was like, all right, you know what? I'm going to do research on defense. Decided to go 33 stack. Love it to this day. Then following year, he asked me, he was like, hey, you know a lot about offense, or know enough about offense, because, I'm still learning, being as young as I am, that he asked me to be offensive coordinator. Had a really good year, finished the state champions in 2023, had a really, really good team, really good athletes, had a very brilliant quarterback who could just pick coverages apart, and had a great receiver who was his twin brother. And then this past year was offensive coordinator again. Didn't do too hot, learned a lot this year, and yeah, that's kind of where I am now. It's just trying to learn as much as I can, so can prevent that
You're
from happening.
telling me the same coach who wins a state championship can also struggle. That's a thing.
Absolutely.
Imagine that. We've had a guy switch jobs here locally that went from, like, we talked about it a couple episodes ago, I think. Went from 12-2 2 years in a row or something to 0-10, and everyone acts like he just forgot how to coach or he's terrible. It's like, Jimmy's and Joe's, man. It really matters. So,
oh yeah, it matters a whole lot.
Well, man, welcome to the show. We're glad to have you on. And last week was defense, so it's great to jump back into the offensive side of the ball. And you being a younger, how old are you?
I'm 25 years old.
Okay, I was about to say I thought you said you were quite young. And so, what is this, like your third or fourth year coaching now?
This was my fourth year coaching, so this upcoming season will be my fifth.
There you go. So there's hope for all of us youngins out there, young in the game, to win that state championship early. That would be fun. And then also the chance to do terribly.
Yes.
Average age is 43. No.
What was that?
No, average age is 40. Average age of a head coach, state champion, is 48.
Whew.
23 years of coaching experience.
For the first one.
25 years of coaching experience, sorry. 25 years of coaching experience, 48 years old. This is the first average age of a head coach to win a state championship. Now, that's the average. Now, that's not the average age to win a first, because that includes the guys that win 9 of them, so their age is getting averaged 9 times.
Oh, yeah.
In that.
Actually,
their age is getting averaged once, but it's just for that year.
Right.
So that's about where it falls out. Mid to
I hope I don't have to
late
wait that long.
40s. I've still got time.
I still got several years.
I don't have much, but
You'll get there, Joe. You'll get there.
I'm
somehow.
not. It's not the.
Oh yeah, you can't even get to head coach. You're not one of the head coaching.
I'm not even a head coach, so I'm not going to accomplish that anyway. Yeah.
Well, all right, man. Well, we'll get into talking this offense here. We're going to talk a little play calling and problem solving mainly. Friday night problem solving with being OCs. I'm a pretend OC. I'm a wannabe, and you guys actually call plays on Friday nights. So we'll get some theoretical crap out of me and some good play calling information out of you guys. But first, Joe, let's pay some bills before we get into it.
Yeah, we're going to check out, we have the guide to building your ultimate defensive coaching system. You can get that by going to joedanielfootball.com/system. That's going to give you, talks about what is a system, what needs to be in your ultimate defensive system, how to install your ultimate defensive system, and the 5 critical coaching mistakes you must avoid in order to be successful with your new defensive system. You can download that free guide by going to joedanielfootball.com/system.
Awesome. Athletic Speed and Movement. It's a place for you to go now, especially. I know we're already into February. In fact, this is going to come out like after Valentine's Day, February. So it's not too late. It is still the time to jump in and have the fastest team you've had probably ever. Unless you're just like Coach over here, Coach Wiggins, and you've just had a very special group of extremely fast athletes. But even then, you could have made them faster. So athleticspeedmovement.com. Get Del Basket's 47-ish years of coaching experience with just working speed and agility for football players. He's taken it to a lot of other sports, but football was the original first NFL speed coach. Helped a rookie running back go all-pro back-to-back years. Since then, he's just helped thousands of kids break through their ceilings. So do that for your kids, athleticspeedmovement.com. Let's go. Question 1. So first of all, we're going to talk problem solving. So we really need to highlight, like, what are some of the problems you guys have ran into or can expect to run into on Friday nights that you haven't already planned with scheme or figured out with scheme, I guess. Joe, we'll let you go first. It's your podcast.
Yeah, I mean, it was, it's the important thing is your planning, but obviously there's stuff like they come out in a different front and you've got to scramble to figure out what you like against that front or what you like against that coverage that they've decided to go to. They just give you a different look. The one that we run into and we usually try to prepare for it, but you can't plan everything. We run into not that they run a different front, but that they've got one stud lineman and they move him. So, he'll be over our worst offensive lineman, or he'll be to our strong side, or he'll go with the tight end, or he'll be over our best offensive lineman that they know we like to run behind, but they know that our best offensive lineman might get to play Division III and their best defensive lineman will be playing at a Power 5. And so they're going to let him just destroy our best one, and then their other kids are as good as our rest of them, and we figure that out. So, that's just as a starting point, that's the first one, is just different looks that we didn't expect and putting guys in different places.
Yeah, that's we dealt with that a little bit this year, just that one kid that we don't have a chance to stop. And I mean, we luckily found, as we talk through this, going through the rest of this evening, we eventually found a way to manipulate that kid even, but it's not, you come out that first series, the first half even, right? It can be pretty difficult. It can really kind of stymie what you're doing. Coach Wiggins, what are some things you've ran into over the years as your 4 years of play calling?
Kind of same thing that Coach touched on, was just, you're preparing all week for a front, and then next it's a different front that presents itself. Running the offense we run, we see a lot of junk defenses at times, where it's like, hey, they're playing a 4-2-5 over, and next they come out in the 3-4 tight or 3-4 mint, and it's just like, well, all right, there goes the game plan out the window. But a lot of times, too, it's just also dealing with that one stud lineman, which in that case, our usual adjustment is just we'll try to read him because we run a lot of option principles within our offense, or we'll just try to move one of our better kids to try to at least stalemate that kid so we can try to at least get some form of a ground game going on. But a lot of times what we run into is just a change in front than what we expected, and maybe a little bit more blitzing than what we expected to.
Yeah, the blitz frequency is one that you can only do so much on film, right? And what do you get, 2 games usually? So it's like if they were just against subpar opponents or whatever, and now they're not really having to show everything. That's probably the biggest one we've seen, is just you get something different because either the other teams were way better or way worse, so they just had to play a lot of base, or maybe they were sitting in the house trying to find answers and you're kind of ready for that, and then they end up just playing, just some kind of spot drop coverage, just keeping all of your guys contained. So we've kind of ran through both of those.
I think it's interesting too with you haven't made the state championship run in your first year, but I know you have coaches on staff who had been there longer. We play the same schedule, basically year after year after year. Might add in a team here and there, but other than a couple of exceptions, we've gone into the playoffs, and those first couple rounds are still against teams that are nearby. For us, we kind of go into games knowing what we're going to see because we play these teams every single year, and we know even if they, we know what they think about us. Like, we know how they view us, and so we can kind of take that and get an idea. But when you play a team that you never play, when you play a team that's on the other side of the state, or you play a team that is just not, you don't have common opponents to look at, that kind of adds a whole new element because you just don't know, you don't have any idea what they're going to, you can look on film and say, like, this is what they did against a team that whatever, but that one adds a whole new element with this, like the state championship thing that you mentioned.
Yeah, I imagine you're probably getting everybody's A game too. So that's got to be a pretty wild way to have to call plays. I've generally been at teams, except for my time at Owasso, I've pretty much been at teams that were getting overlooked. Like, oh, this is an easy W. And so you may not get everyone's best shot. You might have a chance to go out there and make some plays. I imagine once you win the big game, you're pretty much getting everyone's best, mad scientist game plan.
Yeah, we noticed that a lot with after, this past season, everybody was kind of like, oh, here we go. They're going to do what they did last year. And then very quickly they learned we had about a whole new offensive line starting, all new receivers starting. It was just like, okay, they're not the same guys that they were last year, but we still saw a lot different from what their normal base was. So like I said, we saw a lot of odd fronts, and that just for some reason gives us fits. And like I said, me being young, sometimes I struggle to make those adjustments. So I try to lean on some of the older coaches on our staff to help the adjustments that we try to make mid-game.
Do you so I have to ask about your system here because that's going to kind of go in this next part to talk about what are our go-to methods for problem solving. Does your system have a lot of stuff built into it for that? You've mentioned a couple times now you struggle with that, kind of that mint front. Does your system allow you to change plays to get around that, or do you have to just install new plays? What have you done so far to kind of get away from that front or get the better of it?
So a lot of times we'll there's
what's your system first, Coach? Because I think we talked about that.
Spread option.
What's it? Yeah, I don't think we mentioned it on here.
Yeah, but so like the one team that like truly drives us insane with their mint front, they're very well coached on defense and they always give us fits, but they play 2 4 eyes, a 0 nose, and they have a backer on ball. But what they're doing is they're playing quarters behind it, and I've tried to train my quarterback, hey, throw this key screen to this backer on ball to our best athlete because their cornerback's 10 yards off. He's one-on-one in space. Just throw it there until that guy adjusts. And once that guy's adjusted, maybe we can start running counter and everything. But for some reason, that backer on ball, no matter what I do, like I said, maybe it's just my young and inexperience showing at times. But no matter what we do, I can't really get the run game going. But for some reason, our pass game can always get going against that front. If I have a quarterback who's willing to constantly throw the check down and take the 5 to 6 yards in the pass game. Because, really our key screen and our bubble screens, they're they're just extensions of the run game. It's not a hard throw. It's just a catch the snap, throw it to the guy in space who's typically one of our better athletes, and let him go.
Yeah, we kind of live in that world too, the bubble screen world, and we found pretty good success. I didn't realize until this year, I've not seen a team struggle so much with kind of trying to get down blocks on those fours and four eyes. Joe's mentioned it plenty of times on here that's something you're going to run into eventually. We just hadn't, but this year it got to us, kind of what you're talking about. Just you're running power and counter, but you're trying to wrap to the nearest hole, but you end up almost with two different offensive lines. You've got the guys trying to take care of this four eye, and then everybody else is down blocking, and so the gap just hits way tighter. We finally just started running everything as A-gap plays, and if it's wider, you just widen out. That helped, but that was definitely an issue we faced.
Another adjustment that we tried to make was just, we'll bring our guards in a little bit tighter to our center, and we'll split our tackles out a little bit wider because, sometimes they'll just line up in the gap. If they're going to line up in the gap, then cool, we'll just pin you, and then we'll be outside of you, and we'll run away from the backer on ball a lot of times. But, yeah, and it's really hard because a lot of these kids still played like 8-man a couple years ago, so they're not used to really seeing like all these fronts. They're usually seeing either 4 down or 3 down, and most people in our league play head up for some reason when we were 8-man, but now they're actually having to learn how to block a 3 technique, a 4-eye. We should know a down block on a 4-eye to me just turns into a base block, but it presents its challenges, and like I said, odd fronts for some reason. I know zone struggles with the odd fronts a little bit, but we've tried to get into the realm of some more gap scheme stuff, just so players not necessarily worried about blocking this person in this area. It's like, hey, block this gap. Block this guy presents himself. Don't let him cross your face. Wash him down. It's going to hit a little bit tighter. Just trust it, and it's just trusting everything that we're trying to do.
So, with your kind of go-to problem, and Joe, this question really for you, I suppose. Is it just trying a zone run if the gap just isn't working, your guys just can't get that down block, or the base is making things be too wide? Do you just go back to an inside zone? I mean, good thing about 4 eyes is like it's self-defined who's going to go for the double team, right? Like that's pretty cake.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's what we try to do. But like I said, it's just for some reason, and like maybe we're not doing a good job of coaching it on our staff, but for some reason they just can't get that combo block down. So sometimes what we started doing, we pull this out of Jamie Chadwell's playbook, is we'll just art the tackle around. We'll read the 4-eye like he's a defensive end, and just he commits to it, because most of the times the 4 eyes that we see are more of like a true old school defensive tackle, and we're just going to pull it and run around you.
Yeah, that's. I think we all saw that Georgia game, right? When Carson Beck, I believe it was, read that 4-eye and just went to the house. Joe, same question to you. Just what is your go-to problem-solving techniques on Friday nights?
I mean, specifically for the 4-eye look.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean, with the 4-eye look, with the odd fronts and what they're giving us there. This year we were so multiple in our offense. So we ran 3 different offenses, all the same, mostly the same blocking scheme, except for the jet sweep, which was a wing T base under center jet sweep. And what we found with that was we got a lot of junk fronts because they knew what we were going to do. The jet sweep quarterback is a 5'6" white kid. He doesn't look like the other 2 quarterbacks. So he comes out there and they know, like, okay, he's a tough kid, but he ain't zone reading him. He can, but not the way the other 2 kids could. So, he's our jet sweep package guy, wing T package guy. And we would get different looks there. And so we would always test the waters with that too. And like, okay, let's make you go work on the thing. Because the deal. We've got 2 kids that are great athletes at quarterback and running 2 different looks, and they spent their time on that. One's our base, and the other one is the quarterback who was our quarterback for the 2 years prior, and started, the one game that he started really played lights out. Probably going to the playoffs, that helped us because they spent more time on that package too. And they both could run everything. So we would go to the jet look and just see what we get, because we knew they probably spent 1/10 of the time on that compared to the amount of time they spent working on the other two looks if we got something we were struggling with. But we could either go to the read look, and so what we did was we installed a minus tag. And so with ours, we use the zone count. And so 0, 1, 2, 3, the read is always the 3. And we would just say, okay, it's zone read minus. So we go 22 read minus, and minus just means read the 2 instead of the 3. And so that's where the tackle would arc, and go to, and actually sometimes I say he'd arc, he'd take the easiest release, because we even got some loose, like 5s really trying to play the quarterback, and we would just release. And the quarterback would sometimes follow him inside of that guy that would sit outside. So athletic quarterback doesn't have to, stay on a track to run it. So that minus tag helped us being able to tag, James Vint talked about, one of the things I got from James Vint years ago was, who's been on the podcast a couple times, was James was one of the first people I heard talk about, we can read everybody on the field. And so if it's not working this way, let's read everybody. But then honestly, the 4-eye stuff, our base package and bringing in a tight end, that kind of, it's not like the 4-eye just gets destroyed, but if your tight end is, a lot of teams run out of guys, and the tight end is a receiver. We see a lot of times the tight end is the coach's kid. The tight end is 180 pounds. But when we're good, the tight end is a guy. The tight end is one of our best linemen who maybe he starts. So like 3 years ago, the tight end, actually this was true. Actually, this has been true of every single one that I can think of who was a really good blocker. So let me just say that. They were the starting middle linebacker, and we couldn't have them also be, we couldn't have them off the field on defense because they're making 20 tackles. So we didn't want them to be the starting right guard or starting right tackle or something, left tackle or something like that, where we needed them to play now 130 snaps. So they would be the tight end where we could sub package them out and then we would always carry that jersey for break glass. We got to put the lineman jersey on him and put him out there. And so having a real legitimate blocker available to come in at the tight end, if we have those odd front problems, and somebody who can really collapse down that guy is helpful for us. And then we could kind of play games with shifting if that guy, if we just could not down block, and we can play games with moving the H and the Y off and on. If they're guys that can, that really can play both H and Y. So if I have a guy that, if I have to, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. If I have guys that can be the H and the Y, I can just start out with my tight end, and they put that guy that's just the stud over there that we're having trouble moving. And so I'll just move the tight end back, move the H on. Now we're down blocking the other guy and kicking out with the Y. If we can do those things, if we can make those adjustments, if they're available to us, it can open the run game back up. So as far as getting the down block, I don't like counter to that look because it becomes, like you said, a base block. I don't like running to the 4-eye with without a tight end, because it's with a power counter look. I don't like that because it's just not a good angle unless we're just better than the guy, and then who cares? But that's usually not the case. Not for my teams.
I think our when we start thinking about problem solving, we really just carry, Joe, you mentioned a while ago, just being a multiple offense. So that's kind of our saving grace. We make guys have to either throw a junk front, in which we just hope they're not as good at, or they've just got to stay in base because we're doing so much stuff. We pride ourselves on trying to have like a shift and a motion for every single play, right? Which makes defenses have to talk, especially when some of our shifts are pretty crazy. You go 5x0 to 3x1 to the other side and do all sorts of weird stuff. So that's kind of how we save it, and that's kind of how we problem solve, regardless of what the problem is. When it came to the 4-eye specifically, duo became our answer, which this year we just ran our inside zone like duo. So it was, we called it inside zone.
Duo is not inside zone.
I know it's not, and I'm
don't
not going to
care.
gatekeep it for my offensive coordinator.
I don't remember who it was who was like, duo is not inside zone. This is what duo is, and they drew up inside zone.
Right.
Drew up our exact inside zone play, and I was like, okay, definitely not inside zone. 100% not inside zone.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people are drawing up inside zone now, kind of the way that duo used to be. But
duo is not inside zone. This is duo.
Every time I would try to correct Cameron, not even correct him, but just like, hey, man, this is, kind of what I'm thinking. He'd be like, oh, yeah? Well, Tyler Schneider runs it that way, and he's got 10 state championships. So what are you going to do about it? Yeah, you're right, man. You're right. My X's and O's absolutely do not matter. But, yeah, just carrying that multiple offense and having a ton of tags that we can tag up basically any player. Joe, you said it. We can read anyone on the field, and then we can tag any player on our side of the field. So that's been pretty neat. That's kind of the way we problem solve all of it.
But also, like, you don't have to have all the coach. You mentioned, Jackson, that like you couldn't run against it, but you could throw against it. Well, who cares? Like, if we can throw, let's throw. Like, let's not worry about it. Let's make them stop the throw. When we've had guys that could run the system really well, when we had the talent, the higher talent level, especially on the line, but across the board and experience, we didn't do all this stuff. Now, we probably could have benefited from some more of it, but we just, threw what was open, ran what was open, because we could execute the base pistol, what our pistol power offense. We could execute power counter, inside zone, outside zone, truck toss. We could execute hitch, and I wouldn't throw slant. At that time, I refused to throw it because we just lost the game the year before in playoffs on a slant that went through a man's body and went 99 yards the other way. It was a bad one. I actually talked about this with a kid who played in that game, and he was at my wife's like work function and like Christmas party. And so I'm like talking to him, and he went to Randolph-Macon, my college, and I'm like, cool, where'd you play high school? And he's like, I played for Goochland. And I'm like, cool, what's your name? He told me his jersey number, and I was like, cool. Remember that time? And he's like, yeah. It's like,
that was me. You're welcome.
I was the offensive coordinator who called that. That was a good time. But anyway, like, so, we could throw deep out, we could throw curl, we could throw whatever was available. We could run the base offense. It's when you don't have, and coach, I'm sure you found this from the year with the studs to the next year, is you got to get a lot more creative when you don't have a quarterback who can just figure it out there. Like, when I've had that quarterback, you want that quarterback who comes over the sidelines and goes, like, he just tells you what the play call is going to be. And you're like, all right, let me know how it goes. I'll be over here. Like, that makes everything easier. That's your adjustment when you're really good.
Yeah, that's what that quarterback that we had that year was. He was brilliant. I mean, he made us as a coaching staff look good a lot of times. But he knew where to get his eyes and everything, man. He didn't try to force anything. It was like, hey, if that 5-yard hitch is open, I'm going to throw the 5-yard hitch. If the slant's there, I'm taking the slant. I'm not going to try to force it. But he just, good arm, good athlete. And then, other thing too is you'd have to defend the play that was called. And then, he could run like a deer in headlights too. So or not run like a deer in headlights. He could run like a deer and just outmaneuver everybody and take it to the end.
Not headlights. Yeah, there's a difference between, like, the two types of quarterbacks are the one that you see something that is wide open and he should definitely throw it pre-snap. Like, this, you have the look you want. And in your mind, like, you're like, God, I hope he does it. I hope he sees that. And then you have the one where you call the play, you get to the line and you see that it's wide open and the quarterback turns and looks at you and grins because he sees exactly what you see. And, like, one of them is easy and one of them is not. Like, one of them is
let's jump into our last part here, gents. And that's just kind of when it is game night and you're having to do all this problem solving. What have you found to be the most efficient or effective way of implementing these changes? I think we all use halftime, but there's a lot of football before that break, right? So kind of what are some ways you guys have used to implement changes and make changes in your system, your scheme, whatever you're doing that your game plan to help find some success?
Go ahead, Coach.
So I'm gonna kind of lean back on the state championship year we had a little bit, because we had guys to make these adjustments during the game. So a lot of it for us was like, hey, we can hang our hat on this one play, and then we'll disguise it 15 different ways until we get the matchup we like with one of our stud receivers. And then eventually, as we kept throwing the ball, the defense would have to adjust. But all right, hey, they're doing nothing but throwing. Then we get the light box, and then we'd run. Which 90% of the time, now myself, it was just quarterback draw, because I was like, hey, I want the ball in my best athlete's hand kind of late in the game when we're trying to just get to halftime so we can make those adjustments with the line, maybe with personnel switching the line around, maybe so we can block that one stud defensive lineman. But a lot of times we just didn't try to overcomplicate. We just went to some of our base plays that we can hang our hat on, just try to same play, multiple presentations and multiple looks, if anything.
Yeah. What about you, Joe?
We talk about it in the tactics transformation system that I put out, which is a system for adjustments at JDFB. It's not available right now, I don't think, but it will be some point soon. There's basically 3 times that you can make the adjustment. One is like live, like right now, I can yell it out, do this instead. And the more football sense your kids have, the more you can do that, the more that they've played. You got an experienced quarterback, you got an experienced receiver. You can just say, hey, we're gonna throw the hitch, but this is like a really dumb one, but like we're calling hitch, but tell Tommy to run hitch and go, and because I think it's going to be there. Check it if it's not, whatever. So like that's like a really quick adjustment. Or I can just it's easier on defense to just be like, yeah, just tell that guy to move to a 2-eye instead of a 2, or move that guy to a, tell the 2 defensive ends to switch, something like that. That's a really easy on the fly adjustment. A little bit harder on offense to make those adjustments. You can adjust splits pretty quickly. That way you can make those little adjustments. But it's hard to make significant adjustments. And then between series is where I want to make adjustments that we practiced. So if we worked on it, maybe we thought, hey, they might come out in this look, or they might move this guy there, or we did this last week. Let's just go back to this. We can make those adjustments between series. I don't know what your numbers are like, Coach, but those are harder. We have seemingly 27 kids every year, and that number doesn't seem to go up or go down. It's just a matter of how many of them get hurt, whether it stays 27 or it ends up at 19. But we have about 27 kids, and 15 of them play most of the snaps, and so the adjustments are like, let me talk to the one lineman who comes off the field. I'm like, when you go out there, I know that kid's not coming off the field at all. So when you go out there and you get to the huddle, we have to huddle because we got to get a chance to talk to everybody. Go tell him to do this. And so that's but if I have enough guys to make adjustments, or you can at least talk to the quarterback and stuff, we can make those adjustments that we've practiced. And we usually try to give those a name. Hey, this is the whatever adjustment, whoever we're playing or something like that. We'll do this when we expect it. The bigger adjustments are usually at halftime, as far as actual, we're doing something really different. Like we're going to read somebody we never talked about reading. We're going to run a play that we're going to run it in a way that we didn't run it before. Like we had a game where when we were really, really good at deep out, we had a game where we got outside leverage corners, and it wasn't like, this wasn't shocking or anything, and we could still do other stuff. But we still wanted to be able to run some of that look. And so we just kind of, I think we ran a whip route or something like that. Just changed it up a little bit. But that was something that we had to get to talk to the receiver who never comes off the field, because he's also all-state defensive back, and get to talk to him about it. and talk to the quarterback about the timing and all that sort of stuff. But like those adjustments on offense, if we want to, offensive line, if we want to read somebody different, if we want to do it, have a different look, if we want to put in a shift before to change up that look, that is usually halftime. As far as adjustments like that, and I know Kenny does it this way, and this I do it the same way for our play calling. My main way of making adjustments is to put that formation out there in the script with a play that we think is going to be there, and two or three more plays that if they take away the first one, this one's probably open, and if that one's also not there, then this one's probably open, and if they take away all three of them, they're probably better than us. So we go to the next formation on the script, which has a lot of shifts, so we can maybe get them a little confused, and then we try to find out something to make them not as good as us, or at least level the playing field. But that a lot of that adjustment wise comes in the sequence of play calling, and you always want to start fast, but if you don't have all the information that you thought you had, you just want to make sure that first series, especially, like, the worst thing that can happen on that first series is you go 3 and out and learn nothing. Like, that's the worst thing that can happen. If I go 3 and out, but I went through, 3 plays, or I went through a formation, or I went through 2 formations, I know how they're going to line up to them. I know the next thing that we can do. If I can look at that first series and go, okay, I've got a plan for the next series that is a better plan than what I had for the first series, then the first series wasn't a failure. As long as the punt got off. If the punt got blocked, then it was an absolute failure. We're down 7, and that's bad.
and we should have just kicked off.
we should have deferred. Yeah.
That's what I always tell my coach: you kick off first of the game every time, because kind of like what Coach Daniel said, we're averaging around 27. We're right in the same boat as you are. So we have 27 kids roughly, and then maybe 12 of them are actually pretty good football players, and then the rest are just, they try to give you some quality reps and everything. For us, it was like, all right, where's my
program kids? Is what we call them.
I was like, where's my one sophomore kid? Grab him and be like, all right, hey, you got to tell the line to do this. And then he'd be like, all right. And then he'd get out there, and I'd be like, what happened? He'd be like, I forgot. And I was like, okay. I didn't tell you right. My bad. So,
extreme ownership. I love it.
That's every single time.
We do the same. I mean, I would say moving forward, the way that I want to do it is a little more like Joe and Kenny do, and that is the script. I'm not like scripting 15 plays. I'm going to script a few plays to start each series for the first few series of the game, right? And that way you do get information, but then you can just kind of run with whatever your gut tells you to finish that series out. This year we did a lot of our game planning was kind of just being able to answer questions for any front. So we took that one off the table. Oh, they changed front. So that's great. Is it odd or even? It doesn't matter. We'll figure it out. But the motions and the tags and stuff helped us to answer those questions before the game happened. We did kind of try to stick to, like, you don't run stuff you didn't practice. So just because we carry all these, modular tags, we still didn't want to go out there and build a completely different hot rod in the middle of a game because the kids haven't practiced it. In fact, we didn't even like bringing stuff back from multiple weeks ago, like, because that was a part of the way we game plan was you don't run the same stuff in sequential weeks. And so the defense gets 2 films and they say, cool, I've got their 35 formations, and then you show yet another series of shifts and motions to make another 10 or 15 formations, right? So the filming for 3 weeks in a row is never going to look the same, which means you can't use stuff or generally don't use stuff from that long ago. But in weird times, you can use the modular system and say, you can talk about it at halftime possibly, or between series, whatever, get the quarterback over and be like, listen, this system works because of the modules, because everything can be kind of pieced together. Do you feel like you can make this work? Like, we want to have that conversation with the key stakeholders. The line, dude, they're blocking 6 plays all night long anyway. They don't care. Okay, whatever you say, they're just going to do it. So it's really, can the two or three people.
I hate when they ask me what that word means. What does that mean? If I haven't told you, it doesn't affect you.
Brother,
like our calls are so the calls will be so long with the shift and the motion and the tags, and I'm like, what matters to you? And the ones who get it are like 4. It's 4. No, right. Nothing else matters. Somewhere in there is the number 4, and that's what we're doing. And the ones who really get it will look at the other ones and be like, you don't understand that it's 4. Why do you care what all the other words mean?
Yeah. We can watch it on film tomorrow and see what all the rest of that stuff is, right? Like, so yeah, I think as long as you can get your key pieces, your key players to know, look, as long as you don't get like an illegal formation penalty or someone moving when they're not supposed to, you get the playoff. Generally, we're not leaning on all the the support players. We're leaning on those 1 or 2 cats to get something done. So that's been a big way we've done it. Having a multi-quarterback system has been very helpful here because, and the way we do multi is it's not by series or it's by tags, which sounds really weird, but it started by formation. And then as the season moves on, it's by tag. So if I've got a guy that always comes out for jet, Joe, you were talking about it, but we're in the gun. We're running kind of the more modern stuff, pistol, I guess. But, maybe one guy's the jet guy. One guy's the squeeze guy. One guy's the, unbalanced quarterback. So they really kind of start running it in tags, which is nice because the OC can say, hey, good, I'm going to run only these tags so that you get that quarterback we need to have a conversation with, right? And so that's another way we've done that is just and being so multiple in formations. If it's a running back I need to work with, we can go into an empty package and get another receiver on the field. If it's an O lineman, we can go too tight and kind of put his backup in and hide him for a moment. So I think that's more than anything is just the ability to replace kids and use these multiple formations to get the changes implemented wherever it is that we need to do that.
The worst thing about the multiple, so we run a multiple quarterback system, but almost all of the plays, all 3 quarterbacks can run. What we did was we made all 3 quarterbacks the main quarterback in one package and the backup in another. And so each of them could run 2 different variations of the offense.
Absolutely.
And there were games where we just didn't run the jet. There was, in one game, 2 games, our base quarterback was out. And so spread quarterback ran base offense and spread offense, and then jet offense. We didn't run him a whole lot because he was on fire. But everybody could run. The problem though is that all the words, like you said, are the same. It's basically tags that are creating these different offenses that the quarterbacks are running. And so when the offensive coordinator screws up, as he sometimes does in the heat of the moment, and calls a play with the wrong quarterback in the game, they don't go, that's not mine. They know what all those words mean. And so they just go out and run it. And it doesn't look like it's supposed to, because he's not supposed to be the guy that's supposed to run it. And I'm like, crap. That's how it usually does it. Usually is okay, but it's not as good as it should have been.
Right.
And it's just like our spread quarterback, we had a very simplified passing game there. It was mostly bubbles, mostly like your bubbles and looks and screen game, and then spread option stuff. It was a more simplified passing game. We didn't run any 5-step though, so there wasn't any complex passing. But he's been quarterback for 2 years before that. So when we call something, he'd just be like, all right. And he'd go out and he'd throw it. And, sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But at least they know it. Something that I thought of is, I think is important to address is, when do you not adjust? Because we talk about running a play, because we talk about the way that we use the script, and that whole script thing goes back to Bill Walsh. And Bill Walsh, said he scripted the first 20 plays. And so then everybody had to script the first 20 plays. And Bill Walsh said he ran the first 20 plays on the script. Come hell or high water, he was running those 20 plays. And guys just took that as the gospel and would run the first 20 plays, and it's 4th and 1. By God, this script says fade. We're running the fade, and, doesn't matter what the script says. And then guys started to go, well, you can go off script situationally, which then the script goes out the window. But then, I use a script differently, and I know Kenny and I have talked about it before, where I'm calling the first play on the script, and then I may not go to the second play until the second quarter, until the second half, or I may not go to it at all. I may just sit there on that first formation series and run it. But then we say, if it doesn't work, I go to the next thing. But I think that there's an important thing to recognize, which is, why isn't this play working? I think a lot of times we start, I know I do personally, start making adjustments way too soon instead of letting the kids solve the problem on the field.
Right. You're right. And I think, obviously there's a percentage of success you want. We started tracking everything by efficiency, right? If you look at efficiency of a play, I think it was the Bixby guys did like a 7 or 10 or something year research project. And if you're efficient on the first play of a drive, so P and 10, it's like it doubles your percentage chance you'll score. It's like 65% chance you'll score a touchdown versus 35%. So just looking at efficiency. So I think you're asking, when do you not change? Well, if you can just be efficient, that doesn't mean I got to get 10 yards, right? I got to get 4 yards on first down. I got to get half of it on second down, whatever I have left, and I got to convert on third. So I think as long as you're doing that, obviously you're not good. That's success, honestly, right? I mean, I know, you told Bill Blankenship, Joe, that, every play is supposed to score. Well, that's right. But we will hang our hat on efficiency, and we're okay with that. Also, I think that if the kids can identify that, hey, dude, I screwed that up. Because let's be honest, if you go outside zone left and somebody goes right, you can't just go to the next play on the script because, oh crap, outside zone's not there, right? So we have to take that human error piece out of it. Now, if that's a continuation, if that's something that we see consistently, okay, maybe we're just not very good at understanding which direction the outside zone goes. Maybe we're getting our down blocks and our reach blocks confused, right? Which is, it happens. The way that I teach it, I can see that. Gap scheme being backwards and zone scheme being frontwards is the way I teach it. So sure, maybe a kid is just confused that night. Maybe he's concussed because of his warm-ups were too hard. I don't know. But yeah, me too. I think that if numbers and the space and the field, everything is still to your advantage, you have to let the kids figure it out. You can't make an adjustment when you've got a one-hat advantage over there. You've just got to you've got to help the kids, not tell them, hey, figure it out, because that's terrible coaching. But if you've got a replay system, if you got a spotter in the box, somebody that can see what it is we're screwing up. If their scheme is just getting another hat over there, then you get into your if-then play calling. Now you're going to, we don't have to change a lot. We can just change a little. Yeah, so that's kind of my answer there. I think that's when you stay put is, one, if you're just getting efficient plays, and two, if you've still got the advantage and these things should be working, we have to problem solve what it is that's going wrong fundamentally.
The sideline cameras help a lot. The sideline, Hall sideline or whatever, helps a lot with that, because as an offensive coordinator, and I can't imagine being, 24 and being the offensive coordinator, that you haven't gotten this one where I called a play, it didn't work. I go to call it again, and the head coach tells me that play is not working. And I am vetoed from that play. Being able to say, I just looked at it. We did it. I saw it. We, such and such made this mistake. I talked to him. We're going to run it again. If I can give that logic, the play goes, usually I can get the play in again anyway, but, having that logic and having that gives me the confidence to call it again. Knowing that he said that the play looked like a disaster, but he goes, oh, we miscounted it, or I thought that this guy was whatever, and we already fixed it. A lot of times they'll be like, we already fixed it. I'm like, okay, cool. So I can call it again.
Yeah, that's something I picked up from Cameron this year that I really like, and it's you don't give up on plays, and I don't care if it's your gadget play or if it's power. Right? If it ain't working, we're not giving up on it. We're gonna try to figure it out as the night goes on. Generally, that means we have our guys in the box identifying, hey, we're gonna do some weird shifts here. Figure out how we can manipulate this kid that's blowing up power. You know what I mean? I want to run it away from him, but I may have to formation him into the boundary and run it the field or whatever. Whatever it is I got to do to make sure I know where he is. Because otherwise, you're right, man. You kind of can get rid of your identity. We can't run that because they took it away once or twice. Well, yeah, that's football, man. Sometimes they're going to have the upper hand. Sometimes a kid's going to slip and fall. He's going to block the wrong kid. That's the game of football. I don't know at what point you would completely toss a play. I guess if they shut it down for a half.
It happens all the time, though. It's very common. The number of times that after the game have been like, we should have run this more. When I go back and look at the film, I go, why didn't we keep running this? The perfect example is you talk about blitz frequency going up, teams starting to blitz you more. Well, if I get a play that I just love and we get out there and we line up in the formation and I go, we got the look we wanted. And then, I call the play and it gets destroyed because they blitzed there and added numbers there with their blitz. I have to figure out, did they just like Jackson? You have no idea what I'm talking about here. Tecmo Bowl.
I've seen clips of it, but I never played it.
Daniel, you don't know it either.
Okay. Touche. I know of it.
Allow me to speak to the men in the audience, to the grown men in the audience.
I did used to play
you see in Tecmo Bowl and in Super Tecmo Bowl, but let's keep it Tecmo Bowl because it's simpler. In Tecmo Bowl, you had 4 plays in your playbook, and they were on the screen, and the defensive guy had 4 plays. And so each one of those plays on the defense mapped to one of the plays on the offense. So if I call play 1 and the defense calls play 2, I run the play just like normal and it works and whatever. But if I call play 1 and the defense called the one that's matched to play 1, the defense ran over everybody in the offense and you got sacked, and there was no way to change it. There was nothing you could do. And so, but you didn't quit calling that play because you know that it's just they got lucky and called the play. Then what you figured out was that when you're playing against a friend and they're on defense, they're side-eyeing your controller. So if you get sacked 3 times in a row, it's because you're a dummy holding your cards out and showing him everything you got. Now you got to start calling your plays with your little Nintendo pad up by your chest so that he can't see it. And he's trying to see the flex of your wrists and everything to see what you're calling. But so for those of you who don't know, that's Tecmo Bowl. Then there were more plays added, and then it got more complex. But the Super Tecmo Bowl had 8 plays, I think. But so you got to figure out, did this play not work because they got lucky, or is there something in the formation or the alignment or the personnel that whenever we do it, they're going to do this? Because in that case, I can do something else. But I got to figure out, did they Tecmo Bowl this play, or and I just need to come back to it again, or is it legitimately like in trouble? Do we need to change the formation, the motion, the look, disguise it in some way, or is it just like not a good play? Did we execute it terrible? And the sideline camera helps a lot with that, figuring that one out.
I haven't played Tecmo Bowl. I had to look it up because I knew I'd played with Bo Jackson in a football video game, but I was like, I don't know which one it had been. It was Tecmo Bowl. So
Bo Jackson was unstoppable in that game. But when you played against somebody, you couldn't just call Bo Jackson every time.
because they'd stop it.
Because they call Bo Jackson every time and it doesn't work. So you got to run Marcus Allen, which he was good too.
Right.
But yeah. There you go. History of Video Games podcast.
History of the video games. It's our other podcast we're starting right now. Awesome. Well, guys, I think we've checked all the boxes. We've done a pretty good job of talking problem solving on Friday nights. Is there any last comments, Coach Wiggins, about things you've done on Friday nights to win football games?
Put it very point blank and simple. Get the ball into your best player's hands and just let them go to work. Don't try to overthink it sometimes. And like both of y'all touched upon, if a play gets blown up, did they guess it right? Did a player mess up? Don't be so quick to get away from a play or anything like that. Just stick with the script, see what happens. If they keep blowing that play up, then there's something else going on that you need to really make an adjustment. But just be patient. Don't panic. Keep calling what you're calling. Don't get away from your system. Don't lose your identity. And just be who you are, because as soon as you start faking it, the kids are going to know that you're faking it, and that's when your confidence through the team just plummets.
Good point.
Yeah, and I think you could, talking about knowing whether or not it's getting blown up. You might not be able to figure out in that series. You'll not be able to figure out until you get to look at the iPad between series. But also, assuming somebody comes off the field, your quarterback, your lineman, they can tell you if, hey, coach, every time we call that play, they're yelling out, they're yelling out some check, or they're like, then we know, like, okay, it's something they're doing to this look, and we can now start to adjust from it. So you got to communicate with your players too, and they'll tip you off pretty good.
Got really, really good this year at hand signals, because everybody down here is trying to go fast and use hand signals, and they're not covering them up. And if you see them at the bottom of the screen when you're watching film, you're not going to not write that down. You know what I mean? But I can remember a year that I was a defensive coordinator, and we kind of knew that these guys were running jet sweep out of a certain look. And I yelled, check jet sweep. And the receiver was supposed to run it, was just like, what the? And I was like, okay, well, now I'm confirmed. So now I'm really good, right? And then he tried to like cut it back or something, but we had him game plan pretty good for that. So, yes, sometimes they just know what you're running because of the look or your signals or whatever else. You don't have to give up on it. Joe, for you, any last comments on problem solving on Friday night? Something that you carry into each week or anything like that?
No, other than, when we open up various times the tactics transformation system, if you're looking for kind of a questions and answers all laid out ahead of time, I think the most important thing that you can do for these adjustments in general, and that's what the tactics transformation system is based around, is to have a plan already. I think there's a mistaken belief that adjustments, that the coaches that are great at adjustments are pulling it out of thin air in the middle of the game and going, what if we did this? And no, the guys that are great at adjustments either have been running the same system forever, and so they know they've done all the adjustments before. Roger Holmes with his wing T system, he has a billion adjustments that he could do at any times. And I've been to clinic talks with him, and it's just like, yeah, they do this, we just do this and this and this and this and this, and everything in his playbook. There's 10 million things. It's all based off of some team did this to us 12 years ago, and this worked, and so we've done it since then, and we do this. If you have them planned ahead, you're not going to make great adjustments that aren't planned. Very, very, very rarely. What happens more is what you talked about with, we just install something and it looks like crap. Or we try to run something we ran 4 weeks ago, but we haven't run since then. It looks like crap usually. Occasionally it'll work out, but usually the better athletes you have, the more often it'll work out. But usually the best adjustments are things that you worked on in practice. I go to, we play Dinwiddie here, who's really, really good. Tony Franklin's system. This is years ago when I was a defense coordinator, and we had I thought, a really good plan. Now, physically we were outmatched, but it was one of the best teams that we had. And we had a really good plan. And the first series we took away page 1 of the playbook, and the second series we took away page 2, and the third series we took away page 3. And by the fourth series, he got to a page that we had never seen before. But they worked year round. They worked everything, and they were very, very, very prepared. When he got to page 4, we ran out of answers, and they could still execute it. If you could do that, it's hard to stop you. Also,
is that a culture thing, Joe? Is it to some teams you can't install more than 3 plays? Some teams it feels like their playbook is limitless. Is that a culture thing that Kenny Ridley, whatever you expect your kids will know, or is it truly come down to like you just got to have the guys?
I can only tell you what I know about what they do, what I've been told, and I don't know if it's true or not. They practice very, very long hours. They practice all year long. They have the football class. I don't have that in me. I'm not in it for. Sorry, like I just don't. I can't get to that point. Now, the more we'll see, we'll know more. Maybe not. But if his kids are running his system from 6th grade or whatever. You look at places where they've been run. The longer the kids have been running the system, the more pages because with our system, 1 year inside zone is the play, 1 year outside zone is the play, 1 year. So if you only do it 1 year, we've had years where we only ran inside zone 9 times. So the kids that only played in that window, that they don't know inside zone that well. But the kids who have been in the system for 6 years, one of those years inside zone on one of those teams, the JV or the middle school, the inside zone was the play, and they're good at it. And so now it's page 5, they're ready to run it, the zone read or whatever. So I think that there's a lot that goes into it, a lot of practice time investment by the coaching staff. And that's like, it's not for me, but it's paid off hugely for them. But also the longevity of the kids in the program. I think that's one of the things that you're going to see, schools that can keep kids in the program like that and build the community, the community can build the football team. You always get some transfers and stuff, and that's cool, but it's built in the community that they've been doing this forever, as opposed to the teams who are going to run it like, NFL free agency, and they're just going to bring in kids for 1 year. Not even NFL free agency. Who has free agency like that? Somebody was telling me that like Premier League is like this, that Premier League actually is just like college football right now. And guys can just leave whenever they want and go to free agency. And it's like, so there's actually a pattern of it. Like you can see what it looks like. But anyway, the teams that just, pull kids in with NILs and stuff are going to struggle compared to a school that, because that's coming in high school. It's already here, but it's going to be more and more. And the teams that rely on going out and recruiting kids in their senior year are not going to be as good as the teams that continue to build that community and develop kids over time in their system. And also places that don't let a coach stick around, or a coach won't stick around because they don't have good administration.
Facilities.
Yeah.
Support.
I mean, I kind of like what you touched on, talking about, if in the community it's like, hey, we run these certain set of plays, so by the time you get to high school, you can start getting to the deeper aspects of the offense. Because, my buddy, who's also our strength conditioning coordinator, he told me, he was like, we ran the same offense from when I was in Little League all the way up to high school. And he's like, and we were able to do more with it. And what we struggle with at our programs, our JV, our middle school program still plays 8-man football. So they're still going I formation, and it's all like, they still do the numbering point, like numbering, so 34 where 3 bats hitting the 4 hole, where it's like, if I call one of our base plays, it's like, hey, I'm giving you an aim point, and based off of this read, you're going here. And it's almost like they have to take a redshirt year, their first year up, because they just have to learn so much. And a mistake that I've made as just a young play caller is sometimes, I'm thinking like, okay, hey, a high schooler can understand a playbook that's this thick. And then I'm like, okay, let's trim it down a little more. And then each year I keep trimming it down. It's like, all right, hey, we have these plays that I know they can learn, that I know works. And then we can tweak them mid-game to make them work even better, depending on what the defense gives us. So I like what you touched on there, saying like, if they run it and it's like a community thing, yeah, you can definitely get deeper into it. But if you're someone like us or someone who just struggles with having the same offensive playbook on all levels of the program. It's hard. You can't really get that deep. You have to keep it really simple and basic for these kids, and just like I said, dress it up with motions and shifts and everything.
And it's the hardest part of it is what I think a lot of those schools get eventually is they get to bring back, because it's hard to go out and hire a middle school. I know you say your JV is your middle school, but like for us, we have JV, and we don't have freshmen, we have JV, and then we have middle school. And some of our 8th graders play JV, but then we have a 6th through 8th team. And like, we've got a little stability now, but we went through a lot of middle school coaches. And a lot of times it's the guy that just got hired. And what would happen is because that middle school goes off and practices, they practice different days. They practice, they play on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. So we don't really get to see what's going on there. And you might hire a guy one year and he comes in and he just doesn't run your system. Like, even though you told him to, it's the places where the coaching staff gets established, where there's the middle school coach stays for a while and sticks to the system. And the best way to do that is to have players come back to coach and become the middle school guy, and they know the deal. That's when you really get the machine going. Having a JV coach that stays for years, having the old guy who just is happy being the JV coach, man, that's like the best thing in the world if you can get that stuff going. So, I mean, yeah, in that way, it's definitely a culture that's not something you can just bring in. And I know places where people have tried to bring in the long hours. Those long hours, there was a lot of pushback when he started, I'm pretty sure. And it wasn't easy. And he got it established over a period of years. And again, he had the support to do that. If I've seen coaches try to say, like, we're going to win championships here, and if that means we're going to practice 4 hours a day and we're going to be here every day in the summer and every day in the spring, and I don't want you to run track because you need to be doing football, and coaches and all these things. And if you don't get buy-in for that, and you won't get buy-in for that going 1-9,
no.
That doesn't work either. Like, you got to take your lumps and have somebody who's willing to, or have players that, that's a hard life too. Yeah. There's not an easy path to that. Like, if we want 27 guys out, practice is 2 hours. Like, otherwise we're going to have less than 27.
For sure.
That's what we went to a 2-hour practice plan this year, and then we quickly realized that it was just draining our kids. So we actually trimmed it back down to an hour and 30 minutes, and we realized that we actually performed better because it forced us to focus on hey, let's just get really good at these things.
Look at that.
Over and over again.
You may not know.
90-minute practice plan, people. Listen to me.
Joe was
telling you, I'm a 90-minute practice plan guy. So my 90-minute practice plan came from Justin Dottavio when I got my first my only head coaching job. Justin Dottavio, who's been on the podcast a number of times. I was on his podcast actually, and we were talking about my new head job. And he said, how long are practices going to be? And I said, we're going to get off the field in 2 hours. And he said, you won't do 90. And I said, yes, I will. And we did 90 minutes. The rest we never practiced more than 90 minutes. And it ended up being we were so fresh at the end of the season from that. And I mean, practices got shorter. We got 75 minutes because we could get in and there was no wasted time. It is and you have less injuries. You get more done in a shorter period of time. We cut the periods to 4 minutes so that everybody could have the same number of periods, but just the time is different. This is great. It's the best. Thank you for bringing that up.
There you go. Gentlemen, let's we're running kind of short on time a little bit here, so let's jump into our level up. And I'm going to go first because I give Joe a chance to figure it out. Jackson, you're going to go next. Just to let you know, we always like to sandwich our guests so that, if they can't think of a good one, it doesn't ruin our show at the end. It's insurance.
Understandable.
I'm just kidding. Anyway, so my level up this week is AI. And I started after we got off the show last week, I had it primed up, ready to buy the paid version. So I went ahead and did that. I got the Chat GPT paid version. And dear God, the things we've done since then. My wife has written contracts for our physical therapy clinic because you have to have certain contracts with different insurance agencies and different locations, etc. I have written a mock interview for my head coaching interview in a couple weeks. I have written an outline for a full head coach packet, which I just compared mine to, and mine's good, but it was cool seeing it do that. Practice plans. I then wrote a country song, which I wrote, edited it, and put it better in my words, and then sent over to a buddy of mine who's a legit country artist and has songs on the radio, so I can get his feedback. Then I started writing books, and so my kids now. Last night we sat in bed because it was 11 o'clock and they were supposed to be asleep, but they didn't, so I made them use their brains, and so we wrote children's books last night and started illustrating them with AI today. So now we're going to put a whole series of books together and publish them on Amazon just because we can. But so I'll be sharing that whenever those come out because it'll be pretty funny. But it allows you to do so much stuff that you just wouldn't have an idea of how to start or how do you plan that, or it's just the things like you get into a document and it's just a blank sheet and you don't know how to break the blank, right? Like it's so cool. It is ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. Everything it can do. Video games. Look, I've been playing Battlefield 2042 lately because I'm anti Call of Duty right now because they sucked for years. And so I'm like, what's the new meta on Battlefield 2042? And it's like, here's the new highest time or lowest time to kill setup. And I'm like, this is stupid. Like, it's basically cheating, but without cheating. So whatever your hobby, whatever it is that you want to do, AI can help you. And I think I talked about it last week. Like the phrase for the last 15 years has been Google it. It's very quickly going to switch to like AI it. It's time to let, and the faster you get on board, the less of your own whatever bandwidth, I guess, you're going to have to use, and so you can use it for other things. If I can figure out how to code robots to clean my house, it's over. It is absolutely over. I'm never going to stop coaching football. I'll have 100 podcasts. I don't care as long as I don't have to clean. Anyway, that's my level up. Is AI is ridiculous. Use it for everything. It's worth the money so far.
I had this is just like in the past. I'll stop at one because it goes into my level up, and I'll let Jackson go first. I asked it how to quickly season my cast iron pan because I didn't have time to do the normal way. I asked it for Valentine's Valentine's Day promotional ideas, and then basically planned out the entire promotion just sitting there with AI, with ChatGPT. Like, okay, cool. This is going to be the offer. This is going to be like, let's put together a video script for it. Let's put together, and then I'm going to go tweak all of those, but they're all done. I asked it because I woke up just absolutely exhausted how to overcome morning fatigue. It didn't work, but we had some ideas. It wrote a refund, like money back guarantee that is on one of our pages now. It helped me write that. I asked for some resources from ebooks and stuff. I asked it why my truck was whining because I hadn't started in a while, and I was pretty sure. But me and ChatGPT are pretty sure it's just the belts are getting old. So we'll get in on that. The serpentine belt. I asked it Sunday night. I wanted wings from BW3s. ChatGPT helped me pick out the flavors that we ordered because I couldn't decide what flavors to get. I picked out the flavors. It was excellent suggestions. It's awesome. Oh, I had a tree that was gifted, and I went for my wood stove, and I wanted to make sure because I don't know trees, and I took a picture of it, and I was like, "What kind of wood is this?" And it was
no doubt.
Yeah, and it's like,
I ask. So we have like we're on a 3-acre lot here, and we have goats and a garden and chickens, and we're like homesteading it. I'm like the laziest homesteader ever. Anyway, so I asked it to lay out my garden this year, and I'm wanting to use every square inch. I think I'm going to do it. It was like, this should be your orchard. This should be these plants. Because you're always, every year, we're like, what plants can go next to each other and what can't, right? Because plants just can't go next to other plants. I think I'm doing it.
Nails it.
I think we're going to go all in on the 3-acre homestead covered in garden. So we'll see. Oh, and bees. It said get bees. So it's time for bees. Anyway, that's my level up. AI is the bomb. You should get to it if you haven't used it yet. There's a free Chat GPT version, which is enough to get you started. It's enough to get the addiction. Jackson, what is your level up, sir? And by the way, the level up, if you don't know, is just anything that makes you a better dad, coach, husband, father. I already said dad. Human, whatever.
Person, friend, whatever.
All right, so I guess my level up process has been this winter. This is our second year out of school that we've actually had a wrestling program, and I know absolutely nothing about wrestling, but I went to the state championships last year, and I watched it. I was like, this is awesome. I see how this helps football so much. I want to get involved in any way whatsoever. So our head wrestling coach is also on the football staff, and our strength and conditioning coordinator is also one of the wrestling coaches. Like, yeah, man, come on out. You can help the kids. Dude, they have thrown me around, hurt me in ways that I just can't even explain. So I guess my level up process is being a practice dummy for the wrestling team, just learning a lot that sport has to offer and how it really helps with helping with football. And I'm trying to get more football players to wrestle, maybe instead of playing basketball. But we'll see how that one goes next year.
You're building buy-in too, right? Like that's what I see is so during the football season when I'm with a coach, I will never condition as a head coach. We're not going to condition. We'll sprint for speed. We'll work out. We're not going to condition. But when coaches do condition, I always run all the conditioning with the players. It's twofold. One, I get some workout in because I'm in the Army and I've got to stay fit. And we do have to run 2 miles, so conditioning's like real. And two, it's a lot harder for coaches to go, run it again, when their own coworker is like, oh, that was gasser number 38. That's probably enough, right? We're smoked out here. So it's twofold. But it does get you a lot of buy-in. So kudos to you, man.
My first year of coaching, our varsity offensive line coach, who is the guy who taught me how to coach, Tyler Mosley, he was the varsity offensive line coach at the school that I coached my first year. We were like in the gym. I think it was one of those like rained out practices. So we're in the gym or something's going on. We're in the gym and we're kind of standing around and he goes, hey, did you ever wrestle? And I was like, yeah, I went 0-5 on the JV my freshman year. And he goes, great. You're my new assistant wrestling coach. And I was too dumb to say no. But like I did it for 3 or 4 years. And yeah, we got a bunch of football players in there, but I did the same thing. I hadn't wrestled in 8 years and I wasn't good when I did. And so I got tossed around by the kids and it's a lot of fun.
There you go.
It's a good bit of fun.
We'll close out here, guys. Jackson, thanks so much for stopping by.
I still have a level up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Joe's level up. Sorry,
yeah, I think he's a level up.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I screwed up. Go for gold, Jeffy.
Mine. So the one that I didn't read on the Chat GPT, my wife had already started, but I was like, let me just confirm. We did the potty training thing this weekend, and my son has now been 3 days at school without an accident. He's had a couple at home, but he's at school. My son is 2. We are wearing big kid undies now, or semi big kid undies, and it's a pretty exciting time. We've got the little kids pot, he's running around with no pants on, and we got the kids potty sitting in the middle of the living room. That's the good stuff. But yeah, I'm excited because we didn't have like a long weekend to do it. It was just like, okay, this is getting done now. So it was like Friday night, Saturday all day, Sunday all day. And Monday I was like, buddy, because we talked about like, I don't know, are we ready? Monday I'm like getting him ready to go to school. And I'm like, buddy, you want to wear a diaper or you want to wear undies? And he's like, undies.
Yeah.
I was like, all right. So I put the Cars undies on him, and then I stuck 2 more pairs in the bag because I'm like, put another pair of pants in the bag. He's already got 2 pairs at school, and I'm like, I don't know how this is gonna go. I walked in, and I walk into school, and they were already in they go to eat their little snack, and in the dining room, and so all the kids are in there, and so I walk over to his teacher, and I said, he goes in, sits down, and I said, hey. We did the potty training thing this weekend, and he's just wearing undies. So I'm like kind of just letting her know, like, I don't know how this thing goes. I'm sure she knows. She's, works with 2 and 3-year-olds. And she's like, Joe, are you wearing big kid? Yells it across the hall. You wearing big kid undies? Are you going potty like a big kid? Yelling at, and all the other kids are like, hey, Joe. And I'm like, this is weird. I gotta go. So yeah, that's my level.
We did the naked potty training, and it's the way. There's no other way.
Yeah, I mean it's literally 2.5 days, and like I said, there's still accidents, but like it's been a success.
Do it. So ChatGPT said to do it that way,
and you know what? Everyone had said. So this was actually gave us some confidence. So I'll give another ChatGPT. So it laid out a bunch of strategy stuff, but the first one that it recommended, everyone else had said you go like a spring break with a long, and ChatGPT was like, do the 3-day method, a focused intensive method where you let them go diaper free, encourage frequent potty trips, and reinforce success. And we were like, bang, 3 days, we're good. Let's go. So ChatGPT actually let us know like it's okay to just do this over like essentially a weekend.
That's awesome. Love it. The future is here, boys. Robots are taking over. All right, on that, let's close out. Coach Jackson, thank you again for coming on, man. Appreciate you reaching out. Guys, if y'all do want to be on the show, you're an avid listener. There's 7 secret questions you have to answer about other episodes. Jackson was never going to tell you the answers to them. It's the only way you can get on the show. That's a secret I wasn't even supposed to tell you, because now you're going to go listen to all the episodes to try to figure out what the answers are. That'll get you in. Just kidding. Anyway, man, we're super glad to have you. Congratulations on your state championship as a youngin. I am beyond my youngin years, and I don't have one yet, so I'm jealous. And I hope you continue to have success this year. I think we're on Twitter. We follow each other now, so I'll be keeping up with you, seeing what kind of plays you're running.
Don't post a whole lot there, but I'll start posting there a little bit more.
Oh, it's the coach's social network, and Joe doesn't like it either. So
I don't do any social media. It's nothing against Twitter.
Colonial Heights is on there. I watch their stuff. It's just not Joe.
That's actually our JV head coach. He does all of our social media.
He's pretty good.
He's good at it too.
Yeah. Anyway,
he's a good Instagram account too. If you want to follow Colonial Heights football on Instagram,
I'll look into it. I don't Instagram. My wife has to do all the Instagramming, unfortunately. Let's close out. Jackson, why don't you please share us your social media accounts? If somebody wants to reach out and talk about how they're a 18-year-old trying to win a state championship, how do they do that?
Honestly, the best way to probably reach me is through my Instagram, which is just all lowercase Jackson Wiggins _. I'm going to start trying to get back on Twitter a little bit more, and I'm pretty sure my username is still Jackson Wiggins 5. I could be wrong, but
don't do it. If you got out, don't go back.
I think it's 10. Jackson Wiggins 10.
That was Jackson Wiggins 10. All right, never mind.
You
So it's
doubled up
Jackson
that year.
Wiggins 10. And if you have any questions or just any young coaches want a little bit of advice, what I've learned in my short 4 years of coaching, you can probably reach me at my email, which is just all lowercase JacksonWiggins10@gmail.com, and I'll try to answer it as soon as I can.
Perfect. I am at Coach Chambo. Okay, you can reach me at chamberlainfootballconsulting@gmail.com, or you can go to Patreon, patreon.com/ChamberlainFootballConsulting. It's a great place to let me help you do all the other stuff. X's and O's is on there, guys. I'm going through 2 Tag Tuesday right now, where I share 2 tags out of my offensive scheme, out of the playbook, and teach you how to use them, show you film. That's kind of my new thing for the spring. But it's all on Patreon. You got to buy into the right tier. So get on there, check out the tiers. If there's one that doesn't make sense for you or price doesn't match, let me know. I'm sure we'll figure something out. Anything's better than 0. So it's good. And I have a YouTube where I'm just sharing absolutely just the most basic concepts. I'm teaching my wife how to coach football on YouTube. So if you have a wife that needs to learn how to coach football, go there. Joe, sir, where are you at?
We are on all your favorite social medias. At football or at Joe Daniel Football on Twitter or on Instagram, on TikTok, Facebook.com/Joe Daniel Football, Joe Daniel Football on YouTube. Actually, for YouTube, if you want to link directly to it, go to JoeDanielFootball.com/YouTube. But if you search for Joe Daniel Football, you find it there. And if you can watch the podcast on YouTube as well, see all of our beautiful faces and all the good stuff. And you can, you can follow me on Twitter. Follow Joe Daniel Football, really, not me. On Twitter at football info. The website is joedanielfootball.com. Get the download the free guide to building your ultimate defensive system at joedanielfootball.com/system. And my email is joe@joedanielfootball.com if you have questions about membership or anything like that.
For sure. Wonderful. The podcast is at the FBCP on Twitter. I think it just shares all Joe's stuff, so it's great. If this is your first time listening to the Football Coaching Podcast, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. You can find us on your favorite podcatcher, SoundCloud. I got to delete that. SoundCloud's not on there anymore. Spotify, Apple Podcasts are the big two. If you've been listening for a while, please leave a review, especially on Apple Podcasts. That seems to be where like 85% of people listen to podcasts. We want to share the message to more people. We want to help more people. That want to listen for the same reason you just listened all the way into this last part that you've heard 1,000 times. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Football Coaching Podcast. And remember, coach simple, play fast, win.